Hi and welcome back to 3dmotive.com and the materials in Unreal Engine 4 course. This is volume 2 and my name is Kyle Howard, and throughout this volume we are going to go over how to create a skin texture. So we're going to look at subsurface scattering, we're going to look at the clear coat material and create a car material, and we're going to look at creating an ocean shader. Then lastly we are going to create a dynamic material that uses Blueprint, so we sort of have a dynamic weather system going on, and we will go over creating that in the last bit of this course. I hope you enjoy this course and let's get on with it. Hey guys, and welcome back to volume 2 of this 3D Motive materials in Unreal Engine 4. Now we're going to be making a couple of materials. You probably watched the introduction video, so we're going to start off with the skin shader. As you can see here, we have a basic skin shader, and you see that we've got all the pores there, and if you zoom right in, you have these pore-like type of dots. Not that great, but because you're so far away, you're not really going to really see them. I'm going to talk about what this is. This is detail normal mapping, so we'll discuss that during this video. Subsurface, if I'm just going to tap F11 there just to go full screen, and then if I rotate at the back of this, you can see that we've got this red line, this red color here. Now, just like normal skin, if you were to hold out your hand and look out into kind of the sun, don't look directly at it of course, you'll be able to see the light come through your hand. You can also do that with a very bright lamp. You can just pop it on front of the lamp and you'll be able to see the light going through. That's basically subsurface scattering. So the light is going into the skin and it's bouncing all over the place. And this is the effect of subsurface scattering. We're going to go over this video on how to create this. I'm going to go into I'm going to grab this skin shader. I'm going to drag this over here into map start. I'm just say copy here. Once I click that, we're going to have another one here. You're going to want to double click and you're going to want to go yes to save. It's just to save this map. If you go don't save, that's going to disappear. So just save. And now that we've got this, I'm just going to quickly go into here, find my light source. I'm going to change this to movable so we don't have that light rendering, light mass information. Now I'm going to click back onto the ball, which it's not letting me do. Okay, just going to click onto here, and then this arrow here, going to restart that to base material. And I'm going to come over to materials, go into skin. Let's see that we got a skin instance. We will go over the instance for this in a minute, and then we got our skin there. I'm going to right click and create a new folder and go nope. Actually, let's not do that. We'll just create another skin, but what we'll do is we'll right click, we'll go to material, and we're going to type in MAT for material, capital letters, and then we're going to type in just skin SSS, so subsurface scattering. And then we're now going to double click this, then we're going to want to dock this up here. Okay, one of the first things that we're going to want to do, I'm just going to get rid of this stats just so that we have more here, and bring this over slightly. And then over here we're going to go to shading module here. I'm going to scroll down just so that you guys can see it, make it a bit bigger. So shading module, click on default lit, and then we want subsurface, this first one here. Just going to let that sort that out, and then we're going to have this module here. You're also going to see that subsurface color is unlocked now. And then I'm going to want to come back over here. I'm just going to quickly do Control S so this saves everything. I'm going to come down to textures, skin, and I'm going to bring in all three of these, and I'm going to bring them over here. Okay, great. Firstly, I'm going to grab these pores and I'm going to drag them over here. We don't want that at the moment. Same with this normal map. Just drag that here, just so they're out the way. And then we're going to put this here. And then one of the first things we're going to do is let's just pop this into the base color first of all. And then I'm going to right click and type in texture coordinate. And we want one of these because we just want this to be a tiled more. So I'm just going to pop that into that, And then let's grab this normal and pop that into its normal here. And then again, we're just going to pop this into here. And let's change our texture coordinate to, instead of changing both these values, I'll just want to change one value. And inside of the instance, once we create it, I want to be able to change these uniformly. We're going to be able to do that if we go drag off here and go multiply. And then we just want to enter. And then we're going to bring in a constant. Just a constant 1. You can hold 1 down if you want for it as a shortcut. I'm going to right click this and convert this to a parameter. And with this parameter name, I'm just going to call this UV tile. Make sure that's spelled right. And then if we get in here, you can see this is relatively, this is going to turn really blurry and it's going to look like nothing's really there. Same once we do the normal map, it's going to be quite smooth. There we go. Never change this to 1. We're going to be at our default. I'm just going to change this to 5 for now. This looks okay for now. Maybe we should go with 3. Let's see what 3 like. Okay, for now we'll do that. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to control these roughnesses. Actually, I'll do that in a second. Firstly, let's get this applied onto our skin here. So we're going to just go back to skin and we're going to grab our matte skin and we're going to pop it over here. You can drag it onto the ball as well, but I'm going to pop mine into the first element. Now that that's done, I'm going to hit G just so we're in game mode. Try that again. Click the ball, click G, and then as you can see, when I rotate this, we can kind of see that this is definitely doing the subsurface, but it's way too bright. This isn't what the effect that we want. I'm just going to show you what subsurface color does. I'm going to bring in a vector parameter and I'm just going to change this to a red color. Bring this up, bring this really red, and then you're going to be able to see this is going to brighten this up a bit more. Yeah, this made it really purple. I click apply and I come into here. We're going to see this is very purpley when the light is hitting it. So yeah, we can see this pinkish effect because of the light, and if we go on front we can see this is pretty much the skin texture. It just looks a bit more pinkish because of that effect that we got, that subsurface in. So we're going to use this, but we're not going to pop that into there yet. We're going to multiply this with that. So I'm just going to hold drag M, and then I'm going to bring in that multiply, and then I'm going to bring these together. There we go. And I'm going to bring this all the way down to subsurface color. And I'm going to change some of these settings. I'm going to bring in 0 for specular. I don't want that shine. I'm going to copy and paste this so I got the roughness. And I'm going to bring this into here. And I'm going to change this to about 0.8. Okay. Now that we have that, I'm just going to click apply. And let's see how that looks. Okay, so we're slowly getting the effect we want. This is still quite pinkish red, but at the moment it's not looking too bad. Oh, did not want to do that. So yeah, this is looking kind of good. We can see that when you get in there, there's not really any of that detail normal map. And we can change some of these parameters again later once we get in that instance. I'm going to come back over here, and then in opacity I'm going to come over here and create a constant, and then I'm going to right click this so I can convert this thing into a parameter. Now the opacity on the subsurface scattering is going to be the depth of this, so how deep that the light is going to go in there and bounce around. So if I'm going to quickly name this skin depth. For now, I'm just going to put this as 0.5. We can change this again later if we want to when we create that instance. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay. I'm going to change this to its original color. So I'm just going to change it to like a dullish type red. So we want around. It's yeah, say about there. I'm going to click OK. that might be a bit better. It looks a bit funky in here. That's why I tend to hit the apply and have a quick look at what it's going to look like in here. Okay, just rotate. Okay, this is nice. This is good. So we've got that effect going on there. Okay, let's come into here. I'm going to use a few things. Let's first add this. I want to add this as part of this normal map. Now we can easily just multiply them together or use blend modes, but I'm going to use something called a detail texturing. Once I hit enter, we're going to have this thing called detail texturing here. This is a function. If I double click this, this will open up the material function that we have here. Just going to close that. We're going to use the normal bit. So we got the original normal here. I'm going to pop that into there. And I want to bring that normal over here. And then with this, we actually want to find the pause in the content browser. Then we're going to delete this one. I want to bring this in as a texture object. And then we have our texture object there. Because you can see that here it says texture 2D. This is a texture 2D here. And this is a vector 4, but it's going to read these vectors here. And then we want the normal intensity, and we're going to want to change the scale. I'm going to bring in a constant for this. Now, because this is at 0, you're going to see that that is not there. If I was to change it to very extreme, you're going to see these pores are going to really be bumpy, look very beveled. But I'm just going to leave this around 0.85 or 82. Yep, that'll do. Okay, that's good with me. I'm going to right click this and actually convert this to a parameter, just in case I want to change this when we get to the material instance. So I'm just going to name this detail normal intensity. There we go. Intensity, just making sure I spell that correctly. Now we're going to want another constant here because we have that scalar there. I'm going to right click this and convert this one to a parameter and call this detail normal scale. We can also group these things, so I'm going to group this into detail normal, and then I can come over here and do the exact same thing so that when we get our material instance, these are going to be under a group called detail normal. I am going to change that scale to, let's exaggerate that way more than we should do. I think that actually might be fine. Yeah, that's good. Let's go with 80, just to make them a little bit more obvious, but not too obvious. Okay, I kind of like that. It kind of gives that like fuzziness effect. Talking about fuzzy, let's get what we call a fuzziness map into here. I'm going to right click this and you're going to be able to see what this does eventually. Fuzzy shading. I tend to use this when doing things like skin, as well as this is pretty good for foliage. So you don't have to do this bit. This is kind of like an extra that I'm just going to show you. So we're going to bring this over here, and then with the normal we're going to want to bring this one in there. And then with these three scalars, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold drag one down and then click 3 times just to bring these constants in, and I'm going to pile them upon one another. I'm going to end up converting these into parameters as well. So right click, convert this to a parameter. I'm going to name this one core darkness. I'm going to put this in its own group called fuzzmap. Okay, we want to convert this one again and then call this power. I'm going to pop that into the fuzz map and do the exact same thing with this, and of course edge brightness. If you use Marmoset, you'll be able to see that fuzz map is actually used in there as well, if you've ever used it. I use that as well inside of Marmoset. Okay. For now I'm going to leave these parameters as they are. We're going to mess around with them in the material instance. Okay, I think I've got everything. We're not going to comment any of this because we can see it's pretty small, and we can see what everything's doing. I'm going to hit apply and then we're going to save this. Okay, just middle mouse button, click that. I'm going to right click this and I'm going to want to come here and go under material action, create material instance. Just click that. I'm just going to leave that as the default name. And I'm going to drag this over to here and just to make sure that is the right one. Yep, so now we have that element. I'm going to double click and get this open. And again, we have our subsurface stuff here. I'm going to drag this over here and drag our material here. This is still in the window, so you can see everything's there. I am, however, going to bring this a bit more over. There we go. Now, as you can see, I'm going to close that. We have our detail, normal, and fuzz map here. Again, if we want to, and we don't like that pinkish color, we can open up this, which it seems like I forgot to name this parameter, so that's my bad. We can change it to whatever color that we want. I'm going to exit that. I'm just going to come in and quickly name this. So let's find that, and we're just going to call this SS_color. Then we want to hit apply, and that's just going to happen here. There we go. Okay, I'm going to set that as its default. We also then have the skin depth, so I can start changing this down to the minus, and you can see it's much brighter now on this side. Okay, so we get that more effect, but you can see it's too thin, so the light is coming in a bit too much. If I change this to 0, you can see we've got that effect, but if I change it to 1, we're going to see that the skin is now quite thick. So we don't have that as much anymore. I think 0.5 is a good value, so we're going to go back to 0.5, maybe 0.25. Okay, that kind of gives it a bit of weirdness there. Let's hit the default. Okay, that looks alright. We'll just leave it at that. Again, with the UV tile, we can come here and change this so it's less or more. But I kind of, again, let's go with, okay, not 2.5, I want it to. Okay, that's quite nice as well. But I'm going to go back to the standard one. There we go. Now, with the detail normal map intensity, you can see that again, if I change this way up, you're probably going to see these pores a lot more. There we go. That's very noisy and disgusting. We do not want that. And again, with detail normal scale, we can update this real time. So this is going to start coming in a bit more obvious. This is pretty slow, however. I'm going to bring the number down, and you should be able to see these details coming in. Yeah. So now if I scale this up, you can see that what comes up a bit more. Now, the fuzz map. Let's edit some of these parameters. So we have 0 here. If I change this to 1, we can see that in the dark core, we have this dark effect going on. I don't really want that for this. Maybe a small version would be good. So just give it a bit more depth to this. So yeah, I think that'll do. We're going to get edge brightness, and we can change that up just so that the edge is a bit more brighter. That's probably a bit too much, so let's go 0.25. 0, yeah, 0.25. And again, we have the fuzz map power. We can slide this over. Just let that come in, and if we go over and just let that render, okay, jump to a high number. You can see what kind. It just makes it a bit more darker. If we go, it's probably a 10. Yeah. Okay, so 0 to 10. You can see what that type of effect gives to it. Okay, so that's a basic overview of how to create a subsurface shader and some techniques. So we've gone over things like detail, normal mapping, as well as looking into the fuzzy shading and the actual skin texture itself and what we can do. Again, you can just expand on this and do your own skin shader. In the next chapter, we're going to look at clear coat materials, and we're going to create some material layering. So we're going to do that next. In this chapter, we're going to have a look at how to create a clear coat material. I'm just going to push F11, And if I circle around this, you can see that has like gloss on top, and it's got the type of flakes that you would see in some cars. And this is called Clear Coat. This is using the Clear Coat shading module. So in this tutorial, we're going to go over how to create this. So what we're going to do is start off by going to drag this, like we did last time, into Map Start, and then we just want to copy this here. And then just like last time, I want to double click this, say Save Selected, and then once this is open, we'll go to World Outliner, Light Source, and change that to Movable. Then I'm going to want to click on this ball. Just going to save and reopen it, and then I should be able to click it. There we go. Now I'm going to set this as a default. I'm going to come over to Clear Coat, and then I'm going to create a new material. So I'm just going to type in MAT_clear coat. Okay, just tap enter. And then we are going to double click this, and we're going to dock this up here. So one of the first things that we're going to want to do, I'm just going to close this stats bar again. I'm going to come over to shading module, and we are going to want to change this to clear coat, which is just here. So I'll select that. You're going to see that clear coat and clear coat roughness opens up, and then we got this rather reflective ball. And then one last thing is coming down here. Bring this over here. We are going to use material attributes. This is great for layering materials. So if you had a material grid for aluminium, and then say we had a one for chrome, and we wanted to basically have the aluminium in the background, and we wanted the chrome as a logo, let's say the Spider-Man, Superman S. And then what we would do is with these material attributes, we could end up going into a different material and using them to join them up into a material using some material blends. Now we are going to go over them, but we're going to create both of the material stuff in here, so for the flakes and the gloss type effect, even though the clear coat gives that. So what we want to do is then check that, and you're going to see this becomes this single thing here. Now I'm going to come over and right click and go make material attributes. So we just want that one here, and there we go. We have what we had before. So we have our clear coat in here that we can select and stuff like that. Want to make sure that's still on clear. Actually, I'm pretty sure if we set this as default, it wouldn't matter anymore. But I'm going to, just for safety, keep that on clear coat. And we're going to pop something into here eventually. I can start off with this, just so that we can have a look. And then we are going to want to come over to textures, clear coat. I'm going to bring in all of these ones, just so that we can start off. Drag these in here, and then I'm going to bring them over here. So let's get on with starting off this material. So here we're going to want to mostly put our flakes, so we're going to start that now. I'm going to firstly grab the first noise that we have here, just to make sure that's noise 1. Yep. And then just like before, I'm going to come over here and get a texture coordinate. And because I'm going to want to be able to tile this uniformly using the material instance, once we get that going, I'm going to come and multiply this with a constant 1. Bring in a constant 1. I'm going to right click that and convert this to a parameter. I'm just going to call this flake. Oh, we want to make sure I got that selected. Flake UV scale. There we go. Of course, we're going to want this as default 1, but I'm going to set this to 8. And then we can see how that turns out once we get that. Actually, let's set it to the default 1 for now. Okay. And then if I pop that into base color, you can see that we now have that there. And then I'm going to grab I'm going to then do the same with this normal here. So I'm going to use the exact same multiply here. I'll pop that into there. And I'm going to want to be able to change the strength of this, because if I pop this in now, it's going to be quite strong. There we go. We can see that it's really bumping it. This gives off a really ugly effect. I don't really want that. So we're going to mask out both these channels here. We could do that by either dragging out a thing here and go into component mask, or we can come here and append both of these vectors. So using both of them, and then appending using a constant 1. And then this constant 1 would be the blue channel, so that's the Z. So this will control the depth. So if I right click this and go convert to parameter, I can call this flake normal strength. Okay. So if I change this 1 to a 0.1, we're going to see this is going to be way ugly and it's not going to be very readable, and we don't really want that. So I'm going to change this to, let's say, 2. And then that's still kind of strong. I'm going to try 4. Okay, I think I kind of like the way this is going at the moment. So we'll keep it at this value for now. And then one thing that we're going to do is, because of these flakes, they are pretty much going to be metal. So we're going to want to get a constant into this metal. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to right click, convert this, and go flake metallic. There we go. And then I'm going to set this value to a 0.5. Remember, we can change all these again later on. Okay, I'm going to hit apply, and we're going to save, because I want to get this material now just on the our texture board so we can see what it looks like. So bringing in this MAT, we can just drag that onto the board, or like I said before, you can drag it onto the element 0. Just going to let that render out. Okay, so I'm just going to push F to focus on this, and G, I'm going to rotate around it, and it doesn't look that very appealing at the moment, but we're still just trying to get that effect going, so we're going to carry on moving on with that now. So coming back to the normal material that we have, I am going to add some lerps. That way we can get some different color values on this. So we're going to start off with our first lerp, so I'm going to hold L down to grab this lerp. I'm going to use this as the alpha. Oh, want to make sure that that connects. I'll pop this into the base color. And it's going to come out with an error, but we don't need to worry about that. We are going to fix that. And I'm going to bring in a vector parameter here, and then I'm going to call this the top color. So I want to make sure that we got it selected, and we want to go flake top color. And I'm going to make this white. We could use a constant if we wanted to, but we're just going to use this. Just in case we want to change the color in the future, that gives you more freedom to choose whatever you want. I am then going to bring over another lerp, so just grab a linear interpolate, and this time we're going to use something which is called a for now. So if we go for now, and there we go. Oh, we don't want to use that one, so I'm going to delete that one and type in for now again. And we want to grab the vector up for now. This is a function. Again, if you double click this, you can see how exactly that function is working. So you can see here that it's just anything in here is different, and then the white would be different too. So this is great for us because we want the things inside looking outside looking a bit different to the inside. You can see that obvious very now. And then we're going to want to change this. So we're going to bring in 2 vector parameters. So I'm just going to type this one in, and then I'm going to drag that one there, and I'm going to copy and paste, and then bring this one here, pop that one into B, and this one into A. Now this is going to be our base. So we're going to want to come into our parameter name, type in flake underscore base. We want to come over here and then just type in, this is going to be our general one, so we want flake underscore color. Fantastic. I'm going to hit apply. I want this one to be black, but I want this one to be more of a greyish colour. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to bring this up ever so slightly. Bring this over here. There we go. So that's kind of maybe a bit too much. This is going to be easier to see once we get on our alpha. Okay, we're going to deal with that for now. I think that's good. We're going to keep the base black. Again, we can change all these settings again in the future. Right. Now that we have this first one, I want to be able to add the clear coat roughness, so we have that outline to make it look more like a vehicle, because we want to be able to use this clear coat roughness and clear coat. So we're going to bring this over here because we're going to be using this one a little later. I'm going to come down here and again type in make material attribute. Now we have our second one here. You can also add descriptions for these, so we can go, okay, this one is the flake, and it's going to come up here and tell us, or we can just comment this entire thing and then go flakes. Okay, gonna start messing around with this one. We're going to first of all use a constant for this, so I'm just going to bring in a constant. I'm going to right click and change this into a parameter, and I'm going to call this the base underscore clear coat. There we go. I'm going to change this value to 1. I'm going to come over and drag off this constant to constant 1, but I mean bringing out another constant. I'm sure you understand what I mean. And then we are going to name this one base roughness. Oh, don't need a T in there. That's not how you spell that. Base roughness coat. We don't need the code, but I'm going to just pop that in there anyway. This was supposed to be a 1, not a 10. Going to leave this as a 0 for now, so we can change that a bit later. I'm going to again want to bring in another constant, and we're going to use this for the metallic. Convert this to a parameter and call this the base underscore metallic. And then we're going to use 0.5. Okay. So for this base color, I'm going to drag out here. I'm going to bring out a lerp, so a linear interpolate. Drag this, and we're going to bring in 2 colors. And I want to, for this clear coat, because if I right click this, I think I can preview this. Yep, we can preview this. So we have this effect here, and I'm going to want to for now on this, so that out on the outer sides when this is rendering, we can see a different color to the middle. So we're going to type in the for now. We're going to again use that for now function because we saw how that came out, and I kind of like the look of that. We're going to change it as well later on if we want to, but we're not going to use any of these functions. We just want the default result from that. Okay, you can see that we've got that type of effect. I'm going to bring in a vector parameter like last time. And I'm just going to copy paste this up here. I'm going to drag that into A. I'm going to call this for now color. And then we're going to call this so B should be the middle and this should be the outside. So we're going to check if I'm correct in that. So I'm just going to type in outer. Bring these down because that's connecting. And just to test my theory, I'm going to change this to a red color, a pink color, purple. Okay, and it doesn't look like, there we go. Okay, this is nice, but that isn't the thing that we want. If we bring in this as green, if this shows the middle, then we know that this is the middle. If this shows the out, then we know that I got my things the wrong way around. Okay, so that is the outer. So I'm going to change this to outer color. I'm going to change this one to inner color. Okay. I'm going to set these to the default values. And like up here, I'm going to want this to be that midish dark grey. Not midish grey because we'll be looking at that. I think that's a pretty good value to finish with. I'm going to drag this down so there's more space. Okay, and now we're going to want to blend these together, because if I come over here, I'm going to stop previewing this and I try putting that in there, that's not going to work, because then we've got both of these trying to fight for that node here, and I can't click on it and try and add another one because we have nothing that's here. So we are going to use a layer blend. So I'm going to type in layer, make sure I spell that right, and we have all these material blends, layer blends that we have here. I'm going to want something called a standard. So using the material blend, I'm going to go underscore standard. We have it here. Now I'm going to check this, and we want this as our base. So we got these the wrong way around, but that'll be fine. And that is our top one. Drag this over and this over, bring this into here, and that is going to bring it in our final. And then we're going to want to shove something in this alpha, because as you can see, it's just the clear coat. I'm going to hit apply and save this so that we don't lose any work if we were to crash. You can also see how that's looking in here. So we're going to start on creating the alpha. This is just going to be really easy. We can just bring in this, and I'm going to bring in a multiply because I want to be able to change the texture coordinate of this uniformly. So bring that in, and then bring in a constant, and then right click on this, convert this to a parameter. I'm going to call this material blend alpha. There we go. And we're going to just leave this as 1 for now. Okay, I'm going to comment this out. Oh, I want to make sure that we got not those parts. I'm going to comment these and call this clear coat base. We can add spaces in there or underscores. I'm just going to give that a color. Same with this one. Just give that just a color blue. Bring that up here so it's in the window. And then we're going to comment this out as well and call this material underscore alpha. And I'm just going to make that red. Purple. Okay, so we're going to click apply, and then we're going to save this. And if we do say, and then if we have a look in here, we can see that we now have that effect going on. And this isn't really the same as that we had before, so we kind of want that, because if we can see that it's a bit different in all of these. So let's create a material instance of this. I'm just going to leave that as the name, going to drag that into here. And then we're going to open this up. I'm going to start changing some of these attributes to match up the same values that we got last time. So dragging this over here. And then I'm going to drag this slightly over here just to make this a bit more so we can see both of these at once. Clicking G, making this bigger. As we don't care about the window that's outside of this, we just want to make sure that we can see this bit. And then I'm going to start changing some of these. Now, I haven't really done this very well. I'm going to go back into the material and quickly put these in some of there. Okay, so the engine did crash, but I went in and quickly renamed all these. I put them into the groups, sorry. So that way we can then see what we're doing. I'm going to actually leave this as 1. Let's see what this looks like without any metallic. So off camera, I just messed around with the material instance to get the to basically get the effect that we were aiming for at the end. You can do the same with your material and try and get this same effect. In the next video, we're going to look at creating a simple ocean shader. So we'll do that next. In this chapter, we are going to go over on how to create this ocean shader that you see here. And if I rotate, you can see that we have loads and loads of waves. And then we got these big waves here. If I actually come out and then I began to also stretch this out, you see that we are getting no stretching, and it basically tiles. We can have this really big, and then we got a rather large ocean shader. The only problem with this is if I go to the wireframe, it's pretty dense, this map, so you can get away with it being big, but if you go too large, you're going to see a lot of stretching. You can see that it's stretching as I'm doing that. Okay, there you go. Get a really big water shader going on. And this also has slight problem because you get this ripping and tearing sometimes, like there. But that's not too much of a problem. So I'm going to go back a few steps. I'm going to focus on this. And then what I'm going to do is come over to maps. I'm just going to drag this out a bit more. And I'm going to bring this water, come over here and go copy. I'm going to come over here, double click, yes. And then just click on that light over there. I'm just going to make this movable, click on the texture, try again. Going to double check and then open it just so we can select a mesh. I'm going to set this to its default. There we go. And this is using a really tessellated plane. If I go back to wireframe, you can see that how many divisions that I've added to this, just so that when we use the tessellation, which we are going to use in this this video, it adds more to it. Right, we're going to come down to water. Let's see that we have 4 things here. I'm going to create all these. I'm going to control scroll just so that they become a bit smaller. I'm going to right click, and just like last time, we're going to make a material. I'm going to call this, we'll call this one just water material, considering that I did the MAT in the previous one here. Okay, actually let's rename that. So hit F2 to rename, and we're going to call this MAT Ocean. There we go. And just click enter again and dock this on top. Bringing this out. Now we are going to be using these normal settings. We are eventually going to come down here though and switch on this tessellation. We're not going to do that straight away yet. Right, let's get in some of these default values. So we're going to first mess around and create some constants for the metallic, specular and roughness. So I'm going to bring out 3 constants. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's fantastic. Just bring that one up. That one there, and this one down here. I want to put that one in roughness and that one in specular. I'm going to make these parameters so we can change these again in material instances in the future. So metallic for this one. I want to change this one to spec. Oh, I want to make sure that's spec, not spef. There we go. Right click this one, and then we're just going to name this one roughness. I'm going to name this fully specular. It just fits with the whole naming conventions. Alright. Because we kind of want this water reflective, so we're going to change this to 0.25. We're going to change the specular to 1. With the metallic, even though water is not metallic, it actually looks slightly better when we've got the metallic value in. I'm going to leave it at 0 for now, so we can check that again later when we add that. But up here, I'm going to add a lerp. So linear interpolate. Bring this into the base color, and I am going to want 2 vector parameters. So typing in vector parameter. Let's get 2 of these, so 1 up here and 1 just below this, because we're going to add a for now. So let's go for now. We're going to use this one instead of the other one that we used in the previous video. Okay, and then we're going to go change the name for this water color. Let's space that out. And then we're going to name this one water for now. Okay, I kind of want this the lightest blue, so we're going to break that around that value, and this one more of a dark deep sea blue. So I think that will do. We'll check out these values in a bit. So I'm going to pop this one into B and this one into A. Bring that down so it's spaced out more. Want to make sure that definitely connects. Okay, I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to save. And then we're going to just pop this onto here just so that we can see the color. Okay. And then we got that for now going on as well. Okay, this is good start. Right. Because we want in the for now some normal map information going on, we're going to bring in a normal map. So textures, water, and here we have a stone base that I've got big waves. I know this is a stone texture. If I double click it, you can clearly see that this is kind of a bumpy, noisy stone texture. But I did use this, so we're going to use this this texture to get some of this information going on. You can choose your own different textures, and then same with the base that we got here. So I'm going to bring in both these, drag and let go, and bring them over here. Oh, make sure we bring that. Now I want to be able just to create a absolute world position for these, and I want to make a function. So with the function, we want one going in this direction, in a diagonal direction this way, and then we want it to do the opposite of those directions as well. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go and create a new material function. We won't bother using this one. We'll just go over functions again, so we can go four-way directional. There we go. And we're going to open up that, and we are going to firstly grab a texture object, and then with this, because we want to be able to input our own textures, we're going to change this into an input, and that's going to change it to a 2D straight away. I'm going to name this texture 2D, so we know that it needs to be a 2D texture. So we're probably going to have to change these into from texture sample to a texture object. So we'll do that in a bit, and then I'm going to want to get 4 texture samples so we can do our information in that. So getting texture samples, and we want the 2D one. We want 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, pile these upon one another. Right. Let's get this one instead. So I'll just right click and go texture sample. I don't want these ones. So we're just Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V. This want to be a lot easier, and then we want to bring in this to in all of these texture parts. So I want to make sure these nodes are connected, and there we go. Bring this over here so it's a bit neater. Okay, now we're going to add these. So let's get an add in there. Shortcut for bringing that in is holding A as well. So we've got 2 adds. We want to add this one with this one, and this one with this one, and you guessed it, we want to add these ones together as well. We're just doing that so that when we put this into the output, we're going to see that the texture's there, and it's kind of bright because it washes them all out, but that's fine. That isn't a major problem. Okay. Now we need these panning in their set direction. So let's bring in a panner, and we're going to Control Z, V at that 3 times, so we get 4 of those. Pop that there, that one there, this one here. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see. Put that in its UV here. That one there, this one there, and this one here. Okay. Now we want these going in their set position. I'm going to set this so it's going in down in that directional one. So I want, let's go 0.05 and 0.05. Okay, so that's going in this direction. And then with this one, I want 0.05 minus 0.05. Okay, so that's going that direction. Then we want minus 0.05, 0.05, and then lastly, make sure, okay, minus 0.05, minus 0.05. Okay, so these should be going in their different directions. Yep. Okay. It's a little bit funky in here, but that's fine. This is what type of thing. And that weird bit where it connects all, go back to 111, and then it gives that really weird connect effect. So that there. Well, we're going to fix that by creating some coordinate-based stuff so that we can have it moved. So I'm going to make a add, and again we're going to get 4 of these. So Control V 3 times. Okay, that there, and this one right up here. And we're going to add this with a input, and then we're going to want to make sure this is a vector too, because we're going to get a texture coordinate, and texture coordinates are 2 vectors, so you've got your X and Y. Want to put that into the preview. I'm going to call this, let's call this texture map tile. Okay, this is good. And I'm going to pop these into the A sections of these. And we want to put these into the coordinates as well. Then we want to make sure these adds are going into the time. I'm going to shoot out errors, but that's fine. It's just because we haven't got anything in our B value yet. Sorry, we didn't want them in time. Ignore me. I'm getting this a little bit wrong. We're going to delete this one because we only actually need 3 of these. I'm going to drag this down here, and I'll pop that into its coordinate. And I want these are going to need to be in the coordinates again. Okay, so we won't get that error now. Fantastic. And there we want 3 constants, so holding the 1 key down 3 times, we get our constants here. Pop that into B, B, B. This is wrong, I'm sorry. We want constants 2s. Because we need the X and Y value. So we're going to move this by 2.5 and, I don't know, 2.65. This one by 85.42. And then this one by 45. And then this 1, 2, 4. Just added a bit of random numbers just so that it won't connect. So these shouldn't, in theory now, ever do that overlapping because they'll be all offset. Okay. Right, we're going to need something in our time. So we are going to, like before, that we've done before, we're going to get a multiply, and you guessed it, we're going to get that time as well as a constant, but we want an input for this so we can control that outside of the function. And we're just going to name this time, and we want to make sure that's the scalar, and then just input this into each of those times. Okay, so now that we have that function done, we can click apply here, and then over here I'm going to right click, duplicate, and hit an F2 so we can rename this. Going to call this underscore normal because we want a normal one as well, and the only thing that we need to change is click this, all these texture samples, and come down here, and instead of color we want that as normal. Hit apply and wait for that to do its thing, and okay. Next we want to start getting these in there, so I'm actually going to need to change this to a texture object firstly. So clicking on find, and then we can click on here and say yep, do this, delete that, and then we're going to bring in another texture object. There we go, and we want to find this, and then we want to pop that into there, delete. Right click in, we want to type in no we don't, we want to do function. So we want our material function cell, we got unspecified, and we're going to change this to our 4y directional normal, because these are normals. I'm going to do Control S so we can save these so we don't end up losing any of our work that we've been doing, considering this engine likes to crash. Okay, we're going to start with this one. Now we know this needs to go into the texture 2D. We need a constant for this, so we're going to go constant, and these are going to be our big waves because of the name, so we're going to right click this, convert this to a parameter, and we're going to call this big waves. Right, okay, sweet, and we're going to leave that as 1 for now. And then in our texture map here, we're going to use 2 vectors. Now I want to, so that when we stretch out our plane here, that it's not stretching our normal map, so we're going to go by world position. So I'm just type in world position, and then we want this one, absolute world position, and we want to make sure that we got including material shader offset. We are going to want to divide this, so let's get a divide out, and we want 2 constants. Want to make sure that I get that and that one. Going to multiply these, and pop that into the divide, and then we're going to just need to rename these so we can change them. So we want to change this to convert this to a parameter and convert this to a parameter. We're going to do 100 times 2. We're going to need to actually name this, so we're going to call this big wave size 02. Change this to a 2, and then this to a big wave size 01. Now with this divide, we want to mask out only 2 of the channels, so we get its X and Y values for this offset position. And we're popping in here. So we're multiplying these 2 numbers together, and then we're dividing it with this one, so we have that world space, and then we're just masking out the X and Y, and you shall see the result. Let's pop this into normal so we can see what's going on. Okay. Now you can see those waves are nicely and fluidly moving. The only problem is, because it's world position and we've masked out the X and Y, so it's only using X and Y here, we will have this stretching here, but that's not a problem for us because we are not going to be looking at that angle anyway. So you can see here that we have that the waves going along. We can change this, so we can, if we change this to 1, and see they're a bit smaller, and then if we change this to 5, they're much bigger. So I'm going to put that back to 2. Alright. And now we're just going to bring copy and paste this. And we're going to make this one. Okay, so we want that constant 1. Right click and convert this, and we're going to call this one small waves. And we're going to again just change this to 1. And then let's copy this part here. Control C and Control V. That down here. Pop that into there. And we just want to name this small wave size and small wave size. And we're going to do 1000 times 5. And now we are going to need to blend these normals together. So we're just going to add them. Hold A down to get the add. That in there. Oh, I want to make sure that we definitely get it in there. Right click, put that into normal. And then that should hopefully show up. Okay, that's a little bit too big, I think. So let's change this to 500. Okay. Change that to 50. Yeah, that looks a bit better. It's really fast though, so we're going to change this to 0.25. Okay, this is looking nice. I think the bigger waves are a bit too much still, so we are going to change this time as well. Let's change this to 2.35. 0.35, sorry. Okay, I think that's okay. I'm just going to click apply. We are also going to save our progression. I'm going to come over here and check our window. Right. Now, this is a little too small, so we're going to change this back to 1000. Click apply. See what we get now. Okay, that's looking a little better. So probably need to change the size of this one. So maybe we'll change this to 5 as well. So we do 100 times 5. Okay, this is looking slightly better. We will probably end up changing that again. Let's get on with the rest of that, because we can change that through the material instance once we get that going. So we want to, I'm going to come over here and I'm actually going to normalize this. So we want to normalize these normals, and we're going to pop this into the normal part for this here. So we get the now on those type of colors. You can see the darker blue appearing underneath those darker parts of the normal map. Alright, so this is starting to slightly look like what we want. We're definitely going to want to change this. Let's try and stretch this and see if we get that. Yep. So you can see, because it's doing that absolute world position, we are getting that. Next, we're going to add the tessellation parts. Let's do that. So just click save again, and we're going to come over here. We want to bring in this stone base D, which we're going to use as our displacement map. With this one, we are going to use that 4-directional 4-way. So let's get that material function. So we want that function call here, and then we want that, just that normal one. And we messed up here, so we want to make sure that's a texture object, not a texture sample. Delete that one because we've still had that left clicked in the content browser. It's going to get that one. Let's pop that into there. Let's get a constant for the time. And we're going to name, right click, convert this to a parameter. And we're going to call this tessellated wave time. And then let's leave that at a lower value. So I'm going to go 0.1 because we know that it's a bit too quick already on these. And then we are going to grab that information here because we want to copy and paste this. We want to bring this down slightly. And we're just going to call this big wave and small waves. So yeah, big waves. I'm going to leave this at 1000 and then I'm going to change this to 50. So we want it to be reasonably biggish. Okay, I want to actually see what this is like. So let's just check. Okay, that's going to be hard to see in here because of how big it is. I'll right click and stop previewing this. I am going to get a power so I can control how deep the dark areas are. So let's put that with a constant. And we're going to convert this to a parameter and we're going to call this wave power exponent. I'm going to set this, let's bring that out and see what we got. Okay, that's hard to see, so let's go 2. We can change this later on if it's not what we want. Okay, so we now want to add the tessellation. So coming over here to this section down here, we're going to scroll down and we're going to want to get PN triangles. And then we're going to do crack-free displacement just so that we don't get any cracks showing. Even though that it showed on our previous one, hopefully we can get away with it not showing up on this one. Righto. So now that should have unlocked the tessellation stuff on here. So we got our tessellation multiplier and world displacement. I am going to want to get a constant for our tessellation. So let's change that to constant, and we're just going to right click, convert this to a parameter. We'll call this tessellation oh, I did not spell that right. So tessellation multiplier. Sweet. And then we're going to just change this to, I'm going to leave that at 2 so it's not too dense to start off with. And now we are going to want to bring in a vertex normal world space. So we want vertex normal world space here. Alright, I'm going to want to add this, so holding A down, grab that add, and we're going to pop that into our world displacement there. Okay, right, now we're going to go on our multiply. And I want to have a constant which we're going to use for the distance of the tessellation. Okay, and we are going to want to append this. Let's put that into B value. Put that into that value. And we're going to want a constant. Okay, alright, so we want a constant too. Okay, let's check how this is looking. So I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to save. And we're going to want to check how this is looking. Now we don't have the tessellation working. let's mask out using the component mask. Let's only mask out the green channel and put this into there. Let's go into wireframe, check if this is actually tessellating. So it is tessellating, so it's probably something to do with our material. Let's change our distance here to 50. Whoa, it's getting a bit weird. So change that to 50. Alright, so this is now moving. Now, do we need that mask? Yeah. So we want to make sure that we got this mask, the green channel, and then we're going to hit apply. And we're going to come back into the water. I'm just going to hit save, and we're going to let this render out. Alright. So you can see that we got our effect going on. And now if we stretch our ocean shader, we don't have any of that like stretching going on in the normal map. I mean, if we go like really dramatic, then we will. You can also actually, if you want to be more advanced with this and you want to go on and make this better, you can actually change this to a blueprint, and using the X and Y of this, you can change how much it is using, how much you got it stretching in X and Y through the blueprints. Let's set that back to its default there. Okay, sweet. Let's right click this. We're going to make a material instance and let's mess around with some values. So as you know, like last time, we can change this in real time. I'm going to say yes, and then we're going to just let that compile, and then we're going to mess around with this quickly. Okay, so we're going to bring it out, and then we can start messing around with some of these color values. We're going to make the water much darker. Bring in the now color to more lighter, so it's more lighter when you get to the edge. Maybe make it a bit greenish. Okay, let's actually lighten this up a bit more. Okay, so if we come to the metallic and I start adding some of this metallic in here, you can see that it gives off this kind of really nice effect. That's too much, so let's go 0.5. Okay, 0.85. Okay, so this kind of actually looks more like an ocean, I personally think. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So I kind of like the way this is looking. I'm going to hit G so we've not got that weird effect going on. And then in here we can start changing distance. So if we really want the waves to stick out, we can change it to like 100 or 500 and then 500, sorry, or 5,000. Okay, bit extreme. And you get these really bad waves going on, but obviously you're not going to see that in real life, so that's a bit too exaggerated. Let's change that to 80, 100. Let's go back to 50, just so that the peak's on here. And then again, we can change roughness. We can have it as a non-reflective ocean, which isn't very true. We can have it on 0, which is super reflective. I'm not a big fan of that. Let's bring out that reflective to be a little bit more. Okay. And then obviously with these times, you can change these. So we can bring that to 1, so it's a bit more thingy, or we can make it much bigger as well. We can do the same with the big waves, so we can go, that is not what I want. And obviously if you want this ocean to end up looking a little bit more better, if you do some research on the Unreal Engine 4 page, you have these people who make this guy called Jeremy Baldwin. He's doing a really nice ocean shader, and he uses his own algorithm in this displacement map, which makes it look really, really good. So if you want to go in to push this a bit more, you can do that. So that is pretty much on how to create an ocean shader. Next, we are going to look at creating a dynamic material that it is going to have going to use blueprints, which will use a random range, which will control that if the stone floor would end up having snow on it, or it would start raining and then you get puddles, and then after it's done that for a few moments it would dry up and then it would move on to one of the other twos. It could rain again or it could snow. So we're going to do that next, and we will talk about that next. Hi, and welcome to the final chapters of the this 3D Motive Materials course. Now, in this scene, I've just got this plane here, and as you can see, there's just this standard floor. It's just a standard plane as well, so there's no tessellation on this one. And this is just a stone texture. Now, if I go and play the level, you're going to see that we get this these numbers starting to run down here, and when it hits a certain number, we're going to start it's going to basically activate one of our parameters in our blueprints and then start a weather system. As you can see here, the snow is now starting, and if it ever hits below the number that it's trying to go, you can see that weather currently active is saying, so it can't run the next weather system, so because it's currently snowing. So once it's finished snowing and then it's all laid out and it's all nice, and then it would basically reverse that and then it would start melting. And we could do much more with this, so it looks like this is wet as it's melting. I did do that on a different version of the blueprints. It's still in the blueprint, so we can have a look at that after, but it's basically using the water system, which is the rain, which is now happening. So the rain now shows up. Okay, and then after it's been raining, it's then going to start drying up, and you're going to see that the stone, instead of becoming really reflective, is going to go now back to its dry state, and the water puddles are going to dry up from the rain. So we're going to just stop that, and I'm going to click on our plane here, and if I go to edit blueprint and then open blueprint editor, you can see what we have here. Now this is the first one that I started off, so that when it began to play the level, it would end up snowing. So we have our parameter name snow, and then it would basically, after it snowed, while the snow was on its peak, it would then start bringing in the water, so that when the snow starts sinking and going down, that it looks like it's been wet, because when snow melts it leaves water behind. And then we got the rock roughness, so that once the water starts drying up, the water roughness is drying up too. And then down here we've got our blueprint system, which we're going to go over on how to create, and we have our weather effects here, so we've got our snow and our rain here. And this is using the rock roughness as well. And we got our timelines, and then in the construction script we'll go over on how to pretty much expose the parameters that we have in the material. And it's not too much of a big material as well. So the first thing we're going to do, like the previous videos, is we're going to grab dynamic materials material, and we're going to put that over map start and copy here. Then we're going to just open that. I'm going to save selected. And we are going to set that light to movable again, and I'm going to come out, and so I can double click on this, click on the actual plane. There we go. We normally have to reopen the map, and I'm going to set this to its base material. It's not going to do that actually, because this is a blueprint actor. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually delete that. We're going to bring in the mesh of the plane. So just bringing that in, and then we're going to set its position. Now that we have that in here, we can then, you can see that it's not got a blueprint on it. We can create a new one after. I'm just going to Control S so we can save that. And then we're going to come over to dynamic material, and we can see that we got our dynamic plane here. We have the two materials as well. I am going to right click, and we are going to grab our new create a new material. So MAT, and I'm just going to call this dynamic weather instead of dynamic material, just so that it's easier to do. I'm going to push enter, and we're going to dock this on top, And now we're going to start working on our material. With this material, it's not going to be overly complicated, it's actually going to be quite easy, and we're going to leave it on our default lit. And then we're going to start off with our base color. Now coming to the actual scene and then content browser, we're going to go to textures, I'm going to go dynamic snow. And the first ones that I'm really going to want is to get I want the rock albedo, so we want our stone base and we want our snow base. Okay, so we're gonna bring these two over here because we're gonna start with our diffuse so we can get that going. So I'm gonna firstly create a lerp, and this is gonna be our first lerp that's driven. And we are going to multiply this because I want to be able to control how bright the snow is, because if I come over here and then I go start previewing node, you can see that the snow's not too bad, but if I bring in a constant in case I want to end up changing it, if I put this and start previewing this one and I set this to 2 instead of 1, you can see that the snow is a bit more vibrant. The bloom isn't too much of a problem because it's not really going to show that much in the actual scene. I'm going to pop that into B. I'm going to want to make sure that I'm stop previewing this. And then I want one more lerp. I'm going to pop this into the A. And then we're going to want our rock on top because this is going to be our main texture. And then for B, we are going to get a vector parameter because with the water, we only want a color for the water, and that's normally just a black color. We could use a constant just for this, but I'm going to leave it because I actually might want to change this in the future. You might want to make this a blue water instead, or you might want it as a greeny grungy in case you got some moss, so it's pretty good to have that. So we're just going to call this water underscore color. Alright, so that, let's expose this so that with our material instance we can change that if it's not good enough, and then we're just going to call this snow brightness. Oh, want to make sure we got our T in there. Alright, so we're going to actually comment this because this is, we definitely know this is already done. We are going to just name this just base color, so base color, and we can just give this a random color. There we go. Alright, so that means we can now move them as a group if we need to. Next, let's do our roughness. So I want to come down here. I'm going to need the roughness. I'm going to firstly bring out a lerp, and then we're going to want to grab our snow gloss, and we're going to need our rock gloss as well. So we need to go into our dynamic snow, to our roughness from here, and our snow roughness. Oh, that's our snow roughness, sorry. And we want our stone base gloss. If this isn't running, because I think the stone might, I did do it in substance, so if it's asking for the substance, actually these are just PNGs, so it shouldn't be too much a problem. You shouldn't need the substance plugin for this. Okay, so we're going to want this up here because that's the rock, and we need the snow one down here. Great. With B, we're going to come down here. I'm going to multiply, and I'm going to want to actually grab this noise invert as well, so we're going to bring that over here because we're going to multiply this noise with this, just so that we get a bit more into it. I'm going to divide this actually with a constant, so we want to make sure we got a constant. And then if we convert this, actually we don't want to convert that to a parameter because we don't want to have this exposed. We're just going to call this 0.5. Actually, we will expose it just in case we want to do we do want to change that into the material instance later on. We're just going to call this noise. And then if we check what this is doing, and see our noise as we get closer. And if we obviously change this to 1, and see that it's a bit more obvious. If we change this to like 0.01, you're going to see that it's a little bit more less obvious. So I'm going to put that as 0.5 again. Just wanted to show you what that is doing. That's a bug. It says it's previewing it, but it's not. I'll pop that into A. There we go, that's gone. And then we are going to want to use this. Now I'm going to get a power because I want to be able to control how strong this is as well. And then with our exponent, we can actually come over here and bring out a constant. And we can change this to snow roughness exponent. And I'm going to have this as 0.25. And then on top here, we're going to want our A, so we're going to bring in another lerp. So our linear interpolate, and we're going to want another power up here because I want to be able to control the roughness for this one as well. So put that in the base to stop that error, and then we're going to bring in another constant, and we, just like before, we're going to convert this into a parameter, and we are going to name this rock underscore roughness. Okay, and we're going to make that 0.25. We're going to leave B for now because we're going to control these alphas and stuff in our control that we're going to be making over here, our dynamic control. So let's quickly put these into their commented group. So I'm down here and pushing C to comment this, and we're just going to call this roughness, and then we're just going to a green color. And then we're going to want to get our normal map information. So we're going to want our snow normal, and stone base normal. Come over here with them. We know that we want our stone on top and our snow down here. And you guessed it, we're just holding L down. I'm going to bring out a linear interpolate. I'm going to plug this into the normal by right clicking that pin there. And then in B here, we're going to put in that one, and then we just want that lerp. So we have A as the rock, and then we want our water normal. So we're going to get a vector parameter because we need normal maps are free parameters. So we've got our RGB. Change this to water underscore normal, and we're going to make sure that this is 1, because we want this, if we go 1, 1, 1, it's going to be pure white. So 0.5 and 0.5. Then we got our normal. If I right click this, we don't want to do that. Go back a step, and we convert, we preview this node. You see that's our normal, our base normal there. Okay, so I'm just going to stop previewing that. We can control that later on. We are going to want to comment these. So going over that and then comment and going normals. And we're going to make this a blue color just to fit with the normals. Alright, now that we have all three of those things, over here we're going to actually want to create the we're going to create a height offset as well as a dynamic control for the actual material system. First we're going to hit apply, and we're going to drag this material onto this so we can see what it's looking like. Okay, we're going to get the snow in that because all the alphas don't have anything currently plugged into them, so that's not too much of a problem. Now let's create the let's actually create the control system that we're going to need. So we're going to come over here into the component browser. We're going to grab the we're going to want D2. So we want our displacement 2 because we're going to use this as a different thing later on. we're going to grab the albedo as well. Come over here and we're going to just let go. Alright. Bring the that one there and this one up here. We're going to multiply these both together. And I'm going to use the green channel of this one. Oh, want to make sure that that actually goes into the multiply. And then we're going to grab another multiply. And we're going to multiply this by 100. And I'm going to preview this so we can see why we're doing that. Okay, so it's going to be completely dark now, and if we go 100, we get height, and you can see that we get some of these small height details here. Alright, I'll stop previewing that. Now we're going to want two multipliers. We're going to want one here and one here. Just holding M down so I can get those. And we're going to put this into this A, and this one into this A. Because this is going to actually be for our snow, these ones together, but this one singular is only going to be for our water amount. We're going to want to bring in two constants, so I'm going to hold one down and bring two of these constants in. I'll drag this one down here, and then we got this one, which is going to go into this B value, and we're going to use this, convert this to a parameter, because this is going to be our snow. So we're going to do snow amount. And we're going to leave these as 0 because we're going to control these through the blueprints. I'm going to right click this one, convert this one to a parameter. I'm going to call this one water underscore amount. Okay, this is where it now gets a little bit messy. I'm going to comment these first and do this as the dynamic control. And we're just going to give this a orange color. We're going to bring this over here, pop this into the A. Sorry, we're going to want that to be in the last one because that is our snow there. And then instead of using this multiply for the other two, we're just going to use it for a constant because we just want it to be a simple on and off statement for these. Bring this over for this one. Okay, so it'd be on and off. And then with this one, with the water amount, we're just going to want to put that into the other alpha. Okay. Now I noticed that we got this space here because we don't have anything for the water. So what we're going to do for this one, we are going to use a 1 minus. And we're going to plug in right over here in our dynamic control this here. Okay, so we're going to just control S that, just so that we can get the water depth. And you'll see what that does later on. Now lastly, I'm just going to use a bump offset. So grabbing a bump offset and then grabbing D here. This is pretty much going to make it so it looks like we have some depth in our textures. So we're going to make sure this is 0.2. And then we're going to pop this into the ends of the rock stuff, just so that it looks like the rock sticks out a bit more, so it gives that parallaxing effect. Okay, that's a bit too strong, so I accidentally was supposed to put that as 0.2, not 2. I'm going to click enter. Okay, so it's not too much big, but too big, but you can see that this gives it that like fake depth, so it looks a bit more like it's sticking out, and it saves us from using tessellation. And I'm just going to quickly comment these out and call this height information. We're just going to call this height. Okay, so saving and hitting apply. I'm going to come here and let this compile. Okay, so we basically have the base of this, and now we just need to be able to control this stuff. So in the next video, we are going to actually then convert this into a blueprint and start working on the blueprint system, so this can randomly choose between if it's snowing, raining, or it's just normal dry. Okay, we're going to do that next. So in this final chapter, we're going to actually do the blueprints for this so we can control the dynamic weather system for this. So we're going to start doing that by coming up over here into our details panel, and with this blueprint add script, I'm going to bring it over so you can read it a bit more. We have blueprint add script. If I squash this back down and click that, we can then create it. We're going to go to materials, and we're going to click on dynamic normal, and we are going to call this dynamic weather underscore plane. And we're just going to create the blueprints. Okay, and then we're going to dock it up here, and then we have our rock bed here, and you can see that bumpiness thing, giving it that parallaxing type of effect. So unlike before, where in the other tutorial, in the other material, this plane here, we have a section up here with begin plane play loop. We're not going to do that, because what it is I've got a begin event play that if I pop this into the delay and I disconnect this event tick, and then I was to reopen up the old version and I go yes, save selected, and I was just to play this, what it would do is it would just go straight away, it would start snowing. Put that full screen so you can see it better by pushing F11. So you see that we get this snow effect going on straight away. Then straight after the snow, it's going to begin to disappear, and it's going to have some wetness because snow would leave water behind as it melts. And then it would just be this drying, and then once it dries, it would then loop back around. At least it should do. Yeah, there we go. So it just continuous loop, and we don't want that. We're going to actually create a weather effect. Yeah, we want to stop that. So we're actually going to do the main parts here, these two sections here. But if you want to know how to create this, it's just basically, I've left this in the project file so you can have a look, and it's just basically a delay that would end up start playing, and then in this timeline we got several curves that are controlling how much of these values that we are putting into these sections here. Alright, so we're going to come over to the construction script first, and we're going to want to be able to expose some of those parameters that we had in the material. Firstly, we're going to drag off here, and we're going to go create dynamic material instance, and we want the static mesh component to be the instant. Drag that down here so we have this here, and we want the element 0. If we click on this, we see that we have that element here. If you have several elements and you just want a dynamic section on that, you would end up then controlling, say like let's say element 2 had a glow effect that you wanted to be able to control via the blueprints. You could then just change this to 2, but because we only have one element, we're going to go 0, because with the programming it's 0 to whatever number base. And so now that we have our 0, and we're going to come over here and we're going to actually, let's right click, and then we're going to go promote to variable, and then we got our variable here. I'm going to bring out this detail panels here, and with our variable name I'm going to change this to dynamic mat. Let's do underscore mat. Okay, sweet. So I'm just going to hit save and to compile. I'm going to make sure if this has changed it. So this now, as you see, that we've got a dynamic material instance on here. I'm going to drag and delete all of these because we don't want any of them. And I'm going to bring out an event tick. There we go. And first things first is we're going to need to bring out a for loop. And a for loop will just loop as many times as you ask it to. We're going to have this as a non-stop loop, and we're going to use in our first index, because we want this to be a random number, we're going to go random integer in range. So we want a range of min and max. I'm going to say from 0, between 0 and 1,000. So use those numbers there. Alright, and the next thing we're going to want to do is I'm going to bring out a print string. We need to just bring out a standard print string, because I want this to print, and then we're going to pop this into here. Okay, so I could bring that over here. Actually, I'm going to leave that on top because we want the index, because this is going to need to convert this from that integer to a string. So we drag that onto there. It brings out a conversion here. And then we are going to want to create a branch. So true or false statement, which is basically an if statement. And then in here, we're going to come down to index, and we're going to create a less than. So if the integer is less than 100, then it's going to be true. Okay. I'm just going to click compile and save, and if we start and we go into play, it should start shooting out all these numbers. And if we just stop it, and I was to come over here and go, okay, print string, and then we're going to say, hello, I'm under 100. If we compile this and play, we should see when it's supposed to hit below 100, it's supposed to fire that off. Doesn't seem to be really doing it, so let's stop this. Want to make sure we have our material as well selected, so let's go down to we want our dynamic weather. Okay, need to make sure this is all connected correctly. Yeah, so that we got that then. It looks like sometimes it's hitting below 100, but it's not firing off. But as we saw back then, it shot off, so that's not too much of a problem. Right, next in our true statement, we are going to want to bring in a multi-gate. So typing in multi, then gate, we get our flow control, and we want this as a random. One of these random booleans, and we want it to loop as well. So next we're going to want to start creating the weather system, so we're going to want to do that. So coming down here, I'm going to right click and do custom event. I'm going to add the custom event, and we are going to bring in first of all snow underscore event, and I'm going to copy and paste this, but I'm going to call this one snow reverse, and then we want to bring in a timeline. So just down here, add timeline. Then we have our timeline here, and then we're going to go snow timeline. And we want this one to be the standard play, and because we want this to reverse when we do that, we're going to bring the reverse. Now we're going to double click this, and we're going to create a new float, and we're going to call this snow underscore add. Or actually, let's change this to amount. There we go. And then we're going to right click and we're going to go add key, and then we're going to change the time to 0, and we want the value as 0. I'm going to right click and add another key, and we're going to want this one at, let's say 10, and we want the value as 0.1. Okay. Then we're going to bring in another value, and then we're going to say at 1, not 1, at 20, you're a 1. Just check this, see if this looks right. I believe that's how I had it last time. But if it doesn't work that well, we can easily change that again. So I'm going to hit save and then compile it. And then we're going to need to bring in our dynamic material here. I'm going to drag this and get that as a getter, because we don't want to set this, we want to get this. So we can now then go set scalar parameter value. Click enter so we can get that. We want the value as the snow amount, and if we remember, let's go back into our material. So dynamic weather. Okay, so the engine just crashed, so we're going to quickly open up that dynamic material here, and then we want to come over to the control, and then we had snow underscore amount, and then we're going to go back to the blueprint editor. I want to dock that up here. So we know that that parameter name needs to be snow underscore amount. Okay, and then we want to make sure that update is going into there. I'm going to hit compile, and then I'm going to then just create the custom. So we want to add custom event, and we're going to create the rain one as well. So rain underscore event, and then Control C V, or if you did Control W, it would copy it straight away. And then we're going to want to rename this one. I want to make sure our details is here, so just click that, and then we get our detail window back up. And then we're going to call this one rain reverse. Oh, so reverse, there we go. Then just like last time, we want to right click, type in timeline. We did not want that. So timeline, and then get the bottom one there, and then we're going to call this rain underscore timeline, and then we want that one in play and this one into reverse. I'm going to double click that, and we're going to start creating a variable, and we're going to name this one water. Then we're going to right click, add key, then we want the time to 0, and we want the value 0 of course. And then we're going to right click again, and we're going to have time as, let's say, about 5. Then we're going to have the value as 0.01, and then we're going to make sure that this fill fits, and I'm going to go one thing that we want to make sure is that in our snow timeline we actually want to make sure that we change this length to 20, because this is 20 length, and then we're going to change this one to 30 because this one's going to be a little bit more longer. Right, we're going to then right click, and we're going to then change this to 10, and we're going to have the value as 0.85. I'll right click, and then we want this. I want it on for a few minutes, so let's say about 18. You're at 0.85 still. And then at 25 you are 0.1, then at 30 you are 0. Okay. We can actually control the way these are as well, so if we right click them we can go auto, and it gives it like that bend. It's the same with this one, so it curves more into those ones. And we're going to want to create another float as well, and we're going to call this one roughness because the water has roughness, so we want to be able to change that. And then we're going to right click, and we're going to go add key, and then we want 0, 0, and then we're going to bring in another one. I'm going to go time value 0, and then time we want around 10. So want this a bit long because we don't want this to come in yet, the water. And then around, let's say 17, we start bringing in the water, so that would be 1, and then we right click, and then the water would stay for about, let's say about 2 seconds, and then make sure that's 1. I'll right click, and then at 30, time 30, sorry, we're going to set this to 0. Okay. Let's change this a bit longer. Let's change this to 23. Change it to 22. Okay, so we'll see what that looks like when we do that. So closing the timeline down, we now have both those values, and then again we just want our dynamic material. We want that as a getter, and then we want to set scalar parameter. I'm going to put this one into water, and the name of this one is going to be water underscore amount. Put that into update. Now we want another one, which is going to be set scalar, and now we're going to change this one, and now we want rock underscore roughness. We're going to double check to see if that was the name of the roughness for the rock. Okay, so it seems like the engine is not enjoying me keep on reopening this material, but we have the rock roughness, so we want to make sure that we open this up again and dock this. Okay, so we know that's rock roughness, and then we're going to want that roughness value there. Fantastic. Now we want to go back to up here. Let's comment all these out. As well, if you right click on the things, you can bring out a thing right at the bottom called a reroute node. And then we're going to pop that into there and put that into the target. Let's actually uncheck that. So you put the reroute node in there, or reroute, depending who you are. And then we're going to comment this, and we're going to call this weather loop, and we don't have our details panel up. There we go. Let's make that blue. Okay, so back to our system up here. After multi-gate, on number 1, we're going to go snow event. I am then going to come over here and create a new variable, and I'm going to call is snowing question mark. Bring that and then do a setter, because we want to set this so it's false, so it means that this, when we change it in a second, is going to come out with false instead, so it won't run the next system. Then we're going to go delay, and I believe the timeline for this was 20 seconds. So yep, 20 seconds. So we're going to say delay for 20 seconds. So once that's finished, then we want the snow reverse. So snow reverse event. And then this, we'll just delay this for about 50, let's go about 18. And then we want to again bring out the snowing, and we're going to set this as true so we can do the next weather, so it can snow again or it's going to rain. Then out of this input we're going to go rain. Then we want our rain event. We're going to create a new variable and go is raining question mark. Come over and set that to false, and then we want a delay. I think this one was around 30, so yep, so we want to delay that for 30 seconds, and then we want to bring in our rain reverse and delay that for a little bit lesser, so we can go 28, and then again we're going to want to set this to true. We're going to bring out a print statement for the false, so we can go weather is currently active. There we go. Just so that we know when we are hitting the false. Now over here we're going to bring in a AND statement. So there we go. We got our AND boolean. and we're going to do another pin, and we're going to drag that into there. So we're going to go is snowing in that one, and is raining. So if it's below 100 and it is snowing, because snow should be, I want to set this as, let's compile this. We want to make sure that these are both as true already. So it's going, is it below 100 and is it snowing and raining? And then if that is a yes, because it would be, it would run one of these events. But if, let's say, snowing is then unchecked over here, so this would become false. So if it goes, is below 100, is it snowing and is it raining? And because it is snowing, it's going to go current weather is currently active. So let's comment all this out. We want to change this actually to weather underscore effects, and then we're going to comment this because this is our loop here, weather underscore loop, and then we're going to make that an orange color. I just want to make sure that this is all connected. Sweet. Let's hit compile, let's save this, and now let's click play to see if this works. So it's saying that the weather is currently active. Nothing seems to be happening though, so that means we have a problem. Let's actually right click this and go create instance. So we got an instance of this, and we're going to go back into here and we're going to change this to the instance, because it's probably just that, because this instance should be able to then bring out the dynamicness of it. So let's just click play and then see if that actually fixes it. Okay, so it's now working. So there we go, we got the rain happening. I think there's something wrong with the random integer and range, because sometimes you can see on the side it is using lower numbers, but it's still not printing off the other problems. And I had that problem with the previous one. Let's see if the snow works. Okay, so the snow is actually working. I just had to do some debugging because I had actually, with the snow amount parameter name, I had an I in there, so it wasn't working and it wasn't running, but it now runs perfectly. So there's probably a better way to actually have this with the for loop running, but so you can mess around with trying to create a better system, but this was just basically one that you guys could look at for this tutorial. So throughout this course we've gone over, in volume 1 we've looked at the material interface, what type of types of materials, then we had a quick discussion on material PBR materials, then the material blends, material domains, and the shading modules. Then in the last part of the volume 1 we created that computer screen. Then in this volume we looked at a skin texture to look at overlook subsurface scouring, car coat, which is the clear coat shading module. We created water, so we created an ocean shader, and then we did this dynamic material so we could create a small type of weather system. So thank you for watching this materials in Unreal Engine 4 course, and I hope you guys have learned something from this one. My name is Kyle Horwood, and thank you for watching 3dmotive.com.